going closer to Srimati Radharani. So we're engaging in Bhakti Yoga, by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to engage in service. Srila Prabhupada has given us the translation of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra as, O Lord, O energy of the Lord, please engage me in your service. And this we know, he translated the word bhakti as loving devotional service. So it comes from service, and service is to a person, it's not some impersonal thing. So if this word energy these days has come to become some kind of very vague and formless thing, but in fact, this word energy in this mantra is referring to Hara or Radharani. When we're chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, we're chanting to Srimati Radharani and Shri Krishna. So who is Srimati Radharani? She is the internal Shakti of Krishna, the Supreme Lord. She is the internal pleasure-giving potency. So we address her as Hara. Hara means the one who, she is taking away Krishna's heart. She's the stealer of Krishna's heart. And we're addressing Hara, which is another name for Radha. She's the one who steals Krishna's heart. So in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 1, text 5, she is described, Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir Ladini Shaktir Radha, means Srimati Radharani. Krishna means of Lord Krishna, Pranaya means of love, and Vikriti means transformation. Hladini Shakti is the pleasure potency. So she is a transformation of Krishna's love, and she's the internal pleasure-giving potency. So we are learning from a particular spiritual lineage coming from Srila Prabhupada, our teacher who brought Bhakti Yoga from India to America in 1965. And so his teacher, Srila Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he gave the definition of Gaudiya Vaishnavas. We are worshippers in the Gaudiya line, and he gave the definition that worshippers of Vishnu are Vaishnavas, worshippers of Krishna are Karshnas, and worshippers of Radha are Gaudiyas. So that is what we are. We are Gaudiyas. So each of us living beings, we have a tiny spark. So by the way, I should acknowledge that. So yesterday I went to New Vrindavan, and I did the parikrama, the circumambulation of Radha Kund there, and then Barshana Swami kindly spoke to me about the topics, and I asked him specifically that I'm going to give this talk today. So some of the things that I'm speaking will be influenced by his, and hopefully that will engrave his instructions on my heart. And I recommend if you, so he's a little bit elusive, so if you go to New Vrindavan and you have the chance, or actually even try to go out of your way, please hear from him. He's really out of this world. But anyway, so he mentioned that each of us living beings, we have a tiny spark of that Hladini Shakti, that pleasure-giving potency. And that is how we can, if we attain our eternal position, if we are engaged in Krishna's eternal service, then we can fan that spark, and we fan that flame and get Krishna praying by going closer to Srimati Radharani and serving her. So why particularly now? This is the month of Kartik, as we've been celebrating already. It's been the Damodar month, the first week has already passed. So usually the Indian months have Indian calendar names. For instance, in Bhagavad Gita we know that the month of November and December is Magashirsha, that's the Indian name. And Shri Krishna says, of all months, I am that month. So that's next month, that's not this month. And usually we name, Vaishnavas name the calendar months by different names that are all names of Vishnu. So this is the month of Damodar, the next one will be Keshava, then there's Narayan, then there's Madhava, then there's Govinda, and so forth. So, but generally the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we particularly are attached to this name Kartik for this month, the Indian calendar name. And why was that? So Maharaj mentioned to me that in this context, Kartik is referring to the one who comes from Kirtika, and Kirtika is another name of Kirtida, that is Srimati Radharani's mother. So this month is Srimati Radharani's month. It is the month of Krishna's queen, the queen of devotional service, the queen of Vraj and Vrindavan, Shri Vrindavaneshwari, Srimati Radharani. And Krishna generally has a liberal tendency. He wants to give us maximum spiritual benefit for minimum spiritual investment. However, this is not always appropriate. But he has the opportunity in this month to engage to the fullest in this liberal tendency of his in celebration, because this is the month of his queen, Srimati Radharani. And during this month we take various vows and we try to do various practices. It's also called Urja Vrata. So Urja is the pastime Shakti, the potency of Krishna's pastimes, and Srimati Radharani is also known as Urjeshwari, the controller of those pastimes potencies. And these pastimes are concentrated in this month of Kartik. And so we will have Govardhan Puja coming up in a week. But tomorrow is the appearance of Radha Kund, Bahulashtami, and Rukmini Devi gave the summary very concisely and nicely last week of the appearance of Radha Kund. So I won't speak about that directly, but I'll say a little bit more about how Radha Kund again became manifest to us in this current age. But that's a little bit later. So what are these? So we do Urja Vrata. Vrata means vows and austerity. So what do we do in this month? We try to minimize the physical needs in order to maximize our spiritual practices. We try to offer a ghee lamp to Damodar, and that ghee lamp is so powerful in purifying our heart of the sinful residue, which keeps us from manifesting the devotion which is within our hearts. And Maharaj told me that these ghee lamps, all the ghee lamps that we offer in our life when we do this every month during the month of Kartik, at the time of our death, the reflections from those ghee lamps will come and light the way back to our home, back to Krishna. Those ghee lamps are so purifying that we are offering them this month. And we especially worship Tulsi Devi. The worship of Tulsi Devi is very important in this month. So Tulsi Devi is the earthly manifestation of Vrinda Devi. And so we're praying to be engaged in the service of Radha Krishna, and Vrinda Devi can give us that service. So during this month, Vrinda Devi is increasing in her mother's womb, and Rasa Purnima, which is the day of the end of Kartik, the Purnima that at the end of this month, that is her appearance date. So we can definitely get her mercy if we engage in her puja, her worship in this month. And so, for instance, if you come every morning here at around 5:20 a.m., then you can engage in Tulsi Puja. This is part of the morning program that Srila Prabhupada instituted in all of his temples, and it's a very important part. And we sing, Namo Namo Tulasi Krishna Prayasi, Namo Namo Radha Krishna Seva Prabhu Abhilashi. O Tulsi, beloved of Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire is to attain the service of Shri Shri Radha Krishna. And then the song continues, and there's a whole song that we can pray to her. And she's very merciful, and she can engage us in the service in Braj. She's the queen of... She has been given she has been delegated to be in charge of the Vrindavan forest by Vrindavaneshwari Srimati Radharani. So she can bring us to those pastimes. We also try to visit the holy Dham, where everything reminds us of Radha Krishna, like I did, and I think many people who are usually here are still doing. Went to New Vrindavan yesterday, or many other people are also going to the original Vrindavan, the place of where the remnants of Radha Krishna's pastimes are still pervading the dust of the earth, and so we can gain that association. And we try to get more association of more senior Vaishnavas by whatever means possible. So fortunately, at least there's electronic means that we can see and fortunately there's Vaishnavas who are very mercifully, they're broadcasting even from the Dham itself, and all through the year there's Mayapur TV, so we can get so much association. And we can try to deeply imbibe their instructions. So speaking of instructions, Srila Rupa Goswami has written the Nectar of Instruction, and it ends with the glorification of Radha Kund. So as I just mentioned, tomorrow is Bahulashtami, the appearance of Radha Kund. So I'll read the 9th verse of Nectar of Instruction. So maybe I'll skip the actual verse, but I will just read the... there's just one part of the verse. Radha Kundam ihapi gokulapate premamrita plavanat. Radha Kunda, a place called Radha Kunda, is superior to, because it is for Gokulapate, the master of Gokul, Premamrita, with the nectar of divine love, Ablavanat, overflooded. So it says, above all, the super excellent Sri Radha Kunda stands supreme, for it is overflooded with the ambrosial nectarian prem of the Lord of Gokul, Sri Krishna. So the Radha Kund in New Vrindavan is non-different from Sri Radha Kund. So often when it may be sort of natural when we are going to New Vrindavan to go to the temple and engage in the many wonderful devotional activities there, but we should also take the opportunity to visit Radha Kund there, and generally, so it differs from person to person, but we can go around the pond and we can take some water from that pond on our head, and in that way bathe in Radha Kund. And it also says in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, chapter 4, text 215, and it's quoted in several places in Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is originally from Padma Puran. Yatha Radha Priya Vishnaus Tasya Kundam Priyam Tatha Sarva Gopishu Saivaika Vishnur Atyanta Vallabha. So it says, just as Radha is dear to Lord Krishna, so her bathing place, Radha Kund, is dear to him. She alone is his most beloved of all the gopis. So this is one of the positive practices that we can do is try to bathe in Radha Kund and at least to remember Radha Kund and praise Radha Kund. So what about avoiding negative practices? So the word aparad means, we see it translated as offense, but most specifically it means distance from Radha, to be distanced from Radha's service. So to go closer to Radha, we should try to avoid things which make us distant from Radha. And the 10 offenses against the chanting of the holy name are given in the Nectar of Devotion, chapter 8. And in fact, there's many, many offenses, not just those 10 offenses. There's many offenses in service. And actually, if I read all those offenses, then I will get very depressed because there's just so many offenses and I'm committing them all the time. But fortunately, we have a remedy in this age of Kali, that we can chant the holy name, and the holy name is very merciful, and so the holy name can save us from the effects of all the other offenses. Except, well, not exactly except, but after a long time, but generally it's very difficult to avoid offenses if one offends the holy name itself. Then the holy name is not giving the potency, because we are keeping away the person Nam Prabhu. The holy name is a person who is very merciful, but if we offend that person himself, Nam Prabhu, then we have no hope. So generally, in the japa period that happens at so around 5:35 in the morning, and in general, so if we're doing this at home, then we should ourselves recite the 10 offenses and every day before beginning our japa, and keep them carefully in mind and try to avoid them. So in the interest of time, I'm not going to recite all the 10 offenses, but one of them in particular, the first offense, is to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord. And this is called Vaishnava Aparad, and this Aparad is very tricky Because the other offenses, we generally get over them by more chanting. Eventually the chanting itself purifies our hearts such that we get purified of those offenses, and the general process of hearing from Vaishnavas and associating and so forth. But that offense is very difficult to overcome. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said in Mathalila chapter 19 verse 156, so he was instructing Srila Rupa Goswami, and he's been talking about the Bhakti Lata, the creeper of devotion. So this is a very beautiful and extended metaphor about this very precious creeper that we've been given, the creeper of devotion. So in this verse he says, Jadi Vaishnav aparad uthe hati mata, upade ja chide tar shukhi jai pata. So he says, if the devotee commits an offense at the feet of a Vaishnava while cultivating the creeper of devotional service in the material world, his offense is compared to a mad elephant that uproots the creeper and breaks it. In this way, the leaves of the creeper are dried up. Tate mali jota kore avaron, aparada hastir jaiche na hoy udga. The gardener must defend the creeper by fencing it all around so that the powerful elephant of offenses may not enter. So, if we think about how precious is this creeper of devotion that we got after circulating through the universe for millions of lives and wandering up and down through all the planetary systems, we got the good fortune of coming into contact with Prabhupada's movement and getting that creeper, then what could be more awful than uprooting it and drying it up? And of course, forget about coming close to Srimati Radharani. It will keep us, from having any devotion at all. So, we have to be very careful to guard against that offense. And there is a remedy, but that remedy is that we have to fall at the feet of that particular Vaishnava who was offended and ask for their forgiveness. And that can be very difficult due to different circumstances. So I would say that, after a lot of experience, that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So we have to try very, very hard to... So for instance, we may not even be able to get close to that Vaishnava to even ask them. So it is said that in Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, that so the offenses against the Vaishnavas are like thorns in Krishna's body. So, because the Vaishnavas are as dear to Krishna as his own self. And just as to remove a thorn, we have to take a thorn from the same place that it came. So similarly, we have to ask that same Vaishnava for forgiveness, whom we offended. And so it's much better to try to avoid that. So we have to understand clearly what that is and avoid doing that. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita Mathalila, chapter 15, verse 261, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada cites a quotation from Skanda Puran that was cited in Hare Bhakti Vilas about how one offends a Vaishnava. Hanti nindati vaidveshti Vaishnavan nabhinandati krutyate yati no harsham darshane patanani shat. Whoever kills or blasphemes a Vaishnava, and whoever is envious of a Vaishnava or angry with him, or whoever does not offer him obeisances or feel joy upon seeing him, certainly falls into a hellish condition. So these are six ways of offending a Vaishnava. So we can stay very far away from Vaishnava Aparad by controlling our urge to speak. So the Nectar of Instruction by Srila Rupa Goswami, the very first thing it says is Vacho Vegam, to control our urge to speak. And staying away from Prajalpa, which is in Nectar of Instruction 2. So Srila Prabhupada translates this as idle talking or talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. And observing Marjada. So what is Marjada? So there's a little bit, so in the interest of time, I'll not go too much into Marjada, that's an entire subject. But I'll just say something from the purport to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 17, verse 15. Or I'll just read the translation in a little bit from the purport. So this is about the austerity of speech. Austerity of speech consists in speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic literature. Purport. One should not speak in such a way as to agitate the minds of others. Of course, when a teacher speaks, he can speak the truth for the instruction of his students, but such a teacher should not speak to those who are not his students if he will agitate their minds. This is penance as far as talking is concerned. So this is one aspect of the marjada, which is that it's translated as etiquette, but etiquette can make us think it's something like good manners, like, you know, if you read in Miss Manners that you're supposed to keep your forks in a certain order and your knives in a certain order. It doesn't seem as important when we translate the word etiquette, but the word marjada is about right behavior. So this is actually, so it's much more important than it sounds from the word etiquette. So there is a story from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, which I'm not going to go into in the interest of time, but I'll just say very briefly that Sanatana Goswami told Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that Jagadananda, so Sanatana Goswami was a student of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, a disciple, and Jagadananda was his personal servant. So this was when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was staying in Jagannath Puri, and it seemed that Jagadananda was very close to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he had this position of being the personal servant. And so Sanatana Goswami was asking for his advice, and then he had given him some advice. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, on hearing that was his advice, he got very angry, and he said, Jaga, he spoke of him very disparagingly. Jaga is only a new boy, but he has become so proud that he thinks himself competent to advise a person like you. My dear Sanatan, please do not think that Jagadananda is more dear to me than you. And then I'll just read the Bengali. Marjada langhon ami na paru shohite. I cannot tolerate transgressions of the standard etiquette. So in this case, this is somebody who was. So Sanatana Goswami was actually staying away from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during this time, and he was not taking much of his association. And Jagadananda was his personal servant, so he was seeing him every day. But what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu emphasized was that Sanatana Goswami had come much before Jagadananda, and so therefore he said that Jagadananda had not instructed him. So what is the lesson for me? So if a person is already under the guidance and instruction of someone who's senior to me, which, you know, lots of people are senior to me, we should be very cautious about taking it upon ourselves to instruct them, and especially to correct them. So it's a very heavy responsibility to correct others, and it says in Srimad Bhagavatam, Rishabdev says in Canto 5, Chapter 5, verse 18, Guru na sasyat, swajano na sasyat, pita na sasyat, janani na sasyat, daivam na tatsyan, na patishcha sasyan, na mochayadya, samupeta mrityu. So one who cannot deliver his dependents, or those who have taken shelter from him, from the path of repeated birth and death, should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod. So I think I'm probably not going to try to become a worshipable demigod. But when I'm correcting other people, then I'm actually trying to take on the position of being their shiksha guru. They're instructing spiritual masters. So I should be very, very careful about that. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 12, verse 32, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, according to Shastric injunctions, there is no difference between Shiksha Guru and Diksha Guru. So it is a very, very dangerous position to correct others, as Srila Prabhupada said in that purport from Bhagavad Gita, to correct others who are not one's students. Now, if one has children, then obviously they're one's students. That's what that verse says. So it is one's responsibility to correct them. But otherwise, if someone hasn't taken that position, so you're all sitting here. So maybe for the time being, you're in my class. So in some sense, I can say you're my students. But as soon as we leave this class, just the fact that you're sitting here is you've kindly decided to listen for some time. But as soon as we leave this class, you're not necessarily my students. And similarly, I teach math. So if someone is sitting in my math class for a semester, then they're my student about the subject of math. But that doesn't mean that they have decided that they are supposed to be my student for the purpose of, my telling them how to run their life. So that position is, it's a very serious position. It's said in the Shastras that the student questions and the teacher answers questions, and there's supposed to be an examination period. So if someone hasn't had that relationship with us and taken on that position that they want our advice and guidance, then we're not in a position to correct them. And here I'm reading a letter that Srila Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the guru of Prabhupada, wrote to one of his disciples. He said, "I received your card dated November 26th and another letter following that. Srimad Bhagavatam has instructed us not to praise or criticize others' nature or activities. It is said also in Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat that one goes to hell by criticizing others. My instruction to you is not to criticize others, but to correct and purify yourself. I am forced to criticize my own disciples and those who have come to me for instruction. I do not understand why you would go out of your way to try to perform such a difficult task. The servant of the Harijans, Sri Siddhanta Saraswati." So this was originally in Bengali. It was translated into English by my mother, Devi Dāsi, in Letters from His Divine Grace, with my eternal blessings, Sri Siddhanta Saraswati. These are letters that she selected and translated to English, and it appears in his biography, Prabhupada Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur, The Life and Precepts of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So, in short, we should think 1,000 times and try not to criticize other people. Now, on the other hand, there's two situations. There's some tricky situations that can happen sometimes. So in Nectar of Devotion 9, it says, "A Vaishnav may be very tolerant and meek, foregoing everything for his personal honor, but when it is a question of the honor of Krishna or his devotee, he will not tolerate any insult. There are 3 ways of dealing with such insults. If someone is heard blaspheming by words, one should be so expert that he can defeat the opposing party by argument. If he is unable to defeat the opposing party, then the next step is that he should not just stand there meekly, but should give up his life. The 3rd process is followed if he is unable to execute the above-mentioned 2 processes, and this is that he must leave the place and go away. If a devotee does not follow any of the above-mentioned 3 processes, he falls down from his position of devotion." So this is very serious, that one should not tolerate an insult to a devotee. And generally this process of giving up one's life is not recommended in Kali Yuga, because if that happened, then we would probably all have perished long ago, because there's just too much Vaishnava aparadha in Kali Yuga. But it does say very specifically that we're not supposed to stay meekly. So now on the other hand, to balance that, so I quoted in Giriraj Swami's Bhagavatam class a few days ago, so some of you were there, that Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur has said in Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, he has said 4 times almost the identical verse, and I'll just say the English. "One who, taking the side of one Vaishnava, blasphemes or criticizes another one, goes to ruin." So then, if there's a dispute between 2 Vaishnavas, then it's very difficult. Like, how do we balance? What do we do? So most wise Vaishnavas will take the safe path, which is to distance themselves, to leave in some way, to leave either physically or mentally, or just by refraining from that association. So I should notice that if wise Vaishnavas prefer to leave and go away from my association, then I should notice that that's happening, and I should try to inspect myself, that is there some aparadha. So this is, anyway, so that is enough about the negative process. I was going to talk about the positive process, but now it is time for Arati. So how much time do I have?
5 more minutes.
5 more minutes. Okay, let's see. Okay, so I will just say very briefly that the way to approach Srimati Radharani is first through Guru. So if you arrive here at 5 a.m., then we'll be singing a song about Shri Guru, like Srila Prabhupada, for instance. So Shri Guru is very close to Srimati Radharani. So by serving Shri Guru, then we also can get the feet of Srimati Radharani. Then there is Shri Nityananda. So Narottam Das Thakur has sung in Nitai Padakamala. Hello Nitai Bine Bhai, Radha Krishna Paite Nai. So without obtaining the mercy of Lord Nityananda, one cannot obtain the mercy of Radha Krishna. And then, so Raghunath Das Goswami, who I was intending to speak about how he became the Kundeshwar, the master of Radhakund, but he got the mercy of Nityananda, and through that he got the mercy of Sri Chaitanya. And then ultimately he was appointed by the Goswamis as the guardian of Radhakunda, and he stayed there for a long time, and he cried out in separation to get the darshan of Srimati Radharani. And he got instructions from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him very, very brief instructions. Grammo katha na shunibe, grammo barta na kohibe, bhalo na khaibe, ar bhalo na poribe. Do not talk like people in general or hear what they say. You should not eat very palatable food, nor should you dress very nicely. Amani mano dohoya Krishna nam shadalobe, Braja Radha Krishna Sheva Manushe Kuribe. Do not expect honor, but offer all respect to others. Always chant the holy name of Lord Krishna, and within your mind render service to Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. So then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him the Govardhan Shila, which he himself had been worshipping, and the Gunja Mala. And so the Goswamis considered this when he came to Vrindavan, that he was the one who would be in charge of Radhakund. And he wrote Vilap Kusamanjali, which is it's a lamentation in separation from Srimati Radharani. So I'll just say one verse from that. That is verse 96. Tavaivasmi, na jivami tvam vina, iti vikyaya radhe tvam, nayamam charanantike. I am yours, I cannot live without you. O Radhe, please understand this and bring me to your feet. And I'll conclude with one verse from the Radha Kripa Kataksha Stava, which is spoken by Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva has a lot to say about Srimati Radharani. He speaks the Radha Sahasranam, and he has spoken this wonderful Ashtakam, which is often, it's often we heard in Vrindavan and especially in Kartik. But I'll just sing this one verse and the translation, so we can meditate on the glories of Radharani. Makeshwari, Kriyeshwari, Swadeshwari, Sureshwari, Triveda Bharatishwari, Pramana Shashaneshwari, Rameshwari, Kshameshwari, Pramoda Kananeshwari, Vrajeshwari, Vrajadhipe, Shiradhike Namostite. So these are all names of Radharani. Makeshwari, O Queen of Vedic sacrifices. Kriyeshwari, O Queen of pious activities. Swadheshwari, O Queen of the material world. Sureshwari, O Queen of the demigods. Triveda Bharatishwari, O Queen of Vedic scholarship. Pramana Shashaneshwari, O Queen of knowledge. Actually, so Praman is evidence, and Shashan is instruction, and also discipline or chastisement. She's the queen of those. Rameshwari, O queen of the goddesses of fortune. Kshameshwari, O queen of patience and forgiveness. Pramodakananeshwari, O queen of Vrindavan. So these are the forest groves of happiness. Vrajeshwari, the queen of Vraj, Vrindavan. Vrajadhipe, the empress of Vraj. O Srimati Radhika, obeisances to you. So we come to her, closer to her by the grace of the Vaishnavas. So I'm praying to all of you to please keep me away from Vaishnava Aparad. Please forgive me if I have committed any offenses to you, and Please give me your grace. Jai Prabhupada, Jai. And I'm sorry there's no time for questions. The Aarti has started, so let's please stand up for Hare